Mikey P. Mike Barbosi back on the End of Money Players podcast. Saratoga on Saturday, sponsored by Adelphi Racing Club and our Saratoga expert in themoneypodcast.com. You get analysis every day. Mr. Nick Tammaro in the house back with me. Nick, I know you were feeling under the weather, but you look primed and ready for a Saratoga Saturday.
I'm quite a bit better now, Mikey. So yeah, I'm better in week 2 than week 1, but slogged my way through and definitely on the other side of it. And obviously looking forward to these Saratoga Saturdays are all special, and every one of them gives us an opportunity to see, future stars and current stars. And I don't think this one is any exception.
Yeah, and we're going to look pick 6 for Saturday and several graded races for this Saturday card that we're going to get into. We have the Coaching Club American Oaks, that grade 1 for this weekend. We got the Vanderbilt, so lots of great graded stakes action. Nick, we're going to start with 2-year-olds, though, in race number 7. Now, this is the pick 6 for Saturday. 3:54 Eastern time is the first race in the pick 6. And, typical Saratoga babies showing up for this maiden special weight. Lots of major, the big barns here. You got McPeaks, you got Asmussens, you got Pletchers, you got Chad Brown. Nick, how are we going to kick it off?
Yeah, a horse I actually tweeted about on Sunday, looking through the entries when they came out, was the 3 I'm guessing it's Stradale, Stradale. I'm not exactly sure. I do know that Kaleem Shah has named some horses in foreign languages. I called one winning the Houston Ladies Classic. So this horse obviously is very intriguing by Yopon, who's just been kind of a sensation in this first crop. I think his number with 2-year-olds right now is 5 for 15. So he is sort of the 2025 version of Vekoma so far. And this horse worked 9 and 4 at the OBS April sale. That's part of the reason why he went for $1.3 million. There's really not much pedigree. The dam was winless. This is her first foal to race. There's a little bit of second family pedigree, but nothing too extensive. So this is a horse that obviously went for a big number because he's racy and he was quick at the 2-year-old in training sale. And usually those translate into early success. Steve did have a horse run poorly last week that was somewhat similar. That was an Into Mischief, so obviously the $1 million+ purchase price made a little bit more sense in that case than this one. So I think you'll see some solid tote action on this horse, and obviously with it being the first leg, you'll get some insight there. Interestingly, David Aragona made the 8 growth equity the morning line favorite. And, David watches a lot of workouts when he makes the morning line, so I'm guessing he really liked that July 6th drill. I watched it. It was really good. And so I think that horse is going to get a lot of support for that reason. And he's got a good pedigree as well. The Damn My Dear Venezuela was a very competent racehorse, and she has produced a couple of minor winners, nothing really terribly significant. I think the majority of the pedigree really comes from her. She was stakes placed, ran second in the Old Hat as a 3-year-old, banked a little over $140,000. But this horse would probably qualify as being on the upper end of a Klarovich Stables auction purchase. They're usually $500,000 and down, and $500,000 happens very rarely. So the fact they went to $425 for this colt is probably a big deal. So drawn outside, should be able to stock in pounds, and no question why Chad would use Manny Franco in a scenario like this. Whereas you do wonder a little bit. I understand a lot of jockeys are out of town at Monmouth, but Todd Pletcher puts Ricardo Santana Jr. on emphasis, and maybe this is a horse who needs to be cajoled a little bit out of the gate. Ricardo's obviously very good at that, so we do see a little bit of the second string kind of situations with all the other good racing going on.
Yeah, it's hard to fault the Yopons so far, and I think that those two play very well in this race. So I'd be the 3 and the 4 here for sure. And it's nice that we get the opening of the pick 6 with these first timers, and you can see the tote action. Not that that's always 100% effective, but at least we have an idea of who's going to be bet into this race. So that will give us some clues. I want your take real quick on Manny so far at Saratoga. I mean, I know we got a win yesterday, but he's 2 for 30, and a lot of his horses really haven't been close. So I mean, he probably needs a wake up. Maybe with the big boys out of town, that might help.
Yeah, it could. I mean, I'll be honest, Mikey. It feels like we have some derivative of this conversation every summer, where Manny struggles in the first few weeks at Saratoga. I think that a big part of it is he's just not quite as well mounted when the big guys are in town. And one of the things that To me, the biggest weakness in Manny's game is I don't think he's a particularly good front end rider. I think he's a little too committed to trying to throttle down speed horses, trying to save something for the final quarter, and I think he misses a lot of opportunities to let horses run free a little bit. And I think the problem when you're up there in such a pressure cooker is that if you get off to a slow start or you begin to have your confidence wane a little bit, a reminder of it is at every corner. And,
Mhm.
I think some of what these guys probably would benefit from is like unplugging every Monday and Tuesday and getting away from Saratoga, because otherwise you're just thrust into all of it all the time. This is the kind of horse, obviously, that could be a bit of a no brainer if he runs to some of those workouts, and you might just need to steer him. And that would obviously help his confidence quite a bit.
So just number check real quick that first leg for you. You going 3-8? Yeah.
I'll be
Anybody
three
else you
eight.
want in there?
Yeah, 3-8 would be my two numbers just to get it started. It's chalky, but these races generally end up that way.
Race 8, going to the grass here, and it's a mile and 3/8. So distance race on the inner turf there. Nick, very much a lack of speed here in this mile and 3/8 race here. I thought you could get a little bit spready. It's hard to know who's really going to control the race. So why not try a little Wesley Ward? You got Navy Seal there, 8-1 morning line on the 5. Victor shows up here. He's getting some rides for Wesley. He probably we'll put this horse up close. I thought he could be used. The 4 Taraj. Hard to know how this horse might come off the layoff, but faced horses like Los Angeles over at Leopardstown in Ireland. So I thought that horse was a little bit of a use in the race, and I could see the 2 Greystone. You got Paco Lopez here from Maker. The horse was second last time, going a mile and a half. I think this horse could be a little closer early. I know he doesn't really show a lot of early speed, but you got Paco in the mix. He can tend to get one closer. What say you in here?
Yeah, this is a really good, very very tough race, and Taraj is a horse who I feel like we've talked about. You and I, we've definitely talked about on this network quite a bit because he's 3 for 3 getting entered and scratched with races coming off the turf. So he's kind of the rainmaker. I'm guessing the racing office probably hopes that trend stops this time around. The weather does look like it's supposed to be okay for Saturday. He feels like the real distance horse in this race, right? I mean, he's supposed to be the one that benefits most from the mile and 3/8. Interestingly, though, Mott entered him shorter all 3 times. So he was not entered at a mile and 3 or any more than a mile and an eighth in any of those 3 prior starts. So, I think that our guess as far as how far he wants to go at this point is about as good as Bill Mott's. I've not made my final selections in here, Mikey, but I will tell you that one of the horses I'm going to use is the 3 Lantharis. And this is a horse that had a lot of bad luck in South Florida, got himself into a series of tight spots, ended up running against some better competition along the way as well. Looked like he woke up a little bit last time out for Mike Trombetta. Mike Trombetta's put a lot of live horses on the racetrack at Saratoga the last few years. Obviously, his stable star, his future is now, who we'll be talking about in a little bit as far as the caress goes. But this is a horse who's going to be a big price that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the 8 Il Siciliano as well. Coming out of a couple of stakes races, getting Lasix back on. I think that's important, obviously, as is the class drop. And I'm looking for him to run quite a bit better this time around. I thought he ran very well against Allowance Company on multiple occasions in South Florida. I understand that's home. I understand those races generally are a little bit easier as well. But, this is a grab bag in terms of what this field really will have top to bottom. So the horses that I wanted to make sure I included in this forum were the 3, 8, and 9. I don't have a big argument with a horse like the 7 Mayor of Midnight, who broke his maiden last out. I hope Manny tries to get him a little bit more involved because, again, as you alluded to, there's not much speed in here. And you're going to need to be somewhat forwardly placed, I think, in order to make that big run. The horse that I want to be against is Steadfast Resolve because he's a big, loping, one-run closer. He's drawn poorly on the outside. He's going to need a lot to go his way that I just don't think he's going to get.
Yeah, he's certainly going to take money in this race, as well as the 9. I think Padito will take money in here also. And, he's got some back numbers. He's raced against the Far Bridges of the world. But I'm just curious what kind of trip he gets in this race, too, from the outside post. Really difficult race there, race number 8 on Saturday. Race 9, let's go to the caress here. This is a 5.5 on the melon. And you get a rematch, Nick, of Pipsy and Futures Now. They were 1-2 in the Intercontinental here on June the 5th. I thought Pipsy looked fantastic in this race. I really liked how she controlled that race and kicked late. I think she's going to be tough to beat again.
I agree. I will admit, Mikey, I have no idea how the hell she got the lead, but did it and went on with it quite nicely. So it was a very solid performance, and she looks very dangerous right back. It looks to me as if she's catching a lot of these horses kind of at the right time. You think about horses as you go through this field that at some point probably had the credentials necessary to win this race. 2B is a graded stake winner. Zeitlos is a graded stake winner, albeit on dirt, even though her turf race in this race last year was not bad at all. In fact, it was almost a winning caliber effort. But Twirling Queen's a little off form. Carrier looks like she might be going the wrong way. Pipsy is one of the horses other than Future is Now, who's at least running well right now. And I think if she's really able to reproduce that kind of performance, at least with that same speed, she becomes extremely tough to beat. So is she? Look, she showed us from her first North American start that she was very good when she won that Soaring Softly, despite getting out of the gate very poorly and just rolling home. So it's no great surprise that she's gotten to be this good. I think the race goes through her. Obviously, Future is Now is the biggest alternative to me, but I'm going to use Zeitlos a little bit as well, who I want to give another opportunity on turf. I think that Caress was probably better than people are going to immediately assume. I don't love that she's going to get bet based on dirt form, but I don't think her turf form is that bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I do think you'll get a price though, considering that she does
Definitely.
look to be a dirt horse. Yeah, and she's going to be from off it a little bit here. She certainly has the numbers, and you mentioned some of the other ones that are going to mix it up early. So that is an interesting alternative to the favorites in the Caress on Saturday. Jump to the grade one here, Coaching Club American Oaks, and we have Immersive coming back to face Lacara. Nick, Lacara certainly has two grade ones this year, but has benefited from some scenarios that favored her style. Do you think she'll get that today? It's a short field, for or against.
I'm against. I'm not a big Lacara guy. I actually was on the Twin Spires jury show yesterday, and we have to give our fade of the weekend. Generally, it's supposed to be a favorite or at least a horse that's going to be close to it. And Lacara was my fade of the weekend. I don't buy it. I think her last win was extraordinarily track and bias aided. I thought she was very fortunate to win the Ashland as well, given that she got away with a pretty clear and easy lead. She set some good fractions early in there, though. And so I don't really buy Lacara as a mile and an eighth horse on a fair surface. And I'll admit, Mikey, I was probably a little critical of Immersive coming out of that Monomoy girl, but I get the impression she's going to be ready to roll in here, and looks as if her training has probably kind of gone up a notch. And I think Brad Cox is going to absolutely have her ready second off the layoff. I also think a mile and an eighth plus is probably going to be Immersive's best game. So I think the day for Take Charge Milady to beat her was last time, and I think Immersive probably reasserts herself here and hopefully begins to bring some level of clarity to a division that really is all over the place. Even though we might see some of these converge in the Alabama next month, there's really no standout right now, and we certainly could use somebody to at least stand up and say, "Hey, I'm the best."
Yeah, and the thing about Immersive is she didn't get the best trip last time for sure. I mean, she was in tight. She had some trouble in there, but I mean, that was first off the bench. She didn't really improve the figure though either from last year. So this is a big
Right.
test for her. I do think it's interesting, and Lakara is certainly going to get the jump. I don't know. I was going to try to blow it up here. I like the two Sweet Seraphine. I just think that there's upside here. That there's sort of betting this horse on the come. You get third off the bench, a stretch out, two straight wins. Really, she just keeps coming at you, it seems. And the distance, I don't think will be an issue for her. So I do think that she could improve here and for Cherie. And I like her here. She's 8-1 morning line. I think she plays well in Maltese, especially against some of these other horses. It was interesting. Scottish Lassie was taken off the rail last time. I mean, she got a great ride up until that point and then got to the stretch. And it seems like just flew off the rail to the middle of the track and didn't make up any ground, but she held her own versus those horses. So I thought she could be an interesting horse here with a jockey switch. And then I don't know. I guess I would use Take Charge Milady. I mean, she wasn't 100% going into the Oaks. Kenny McPeak said that she ran basically dead last in there. She was 12th or 13th, but she bounced back pretty well to beat Immersive last time. Now they show up here in the grade one again. She's got some back lines. She's going to be ignored on the board. You get Kendrick. I mean, I just thought that there were some things to like. And if you're against the favorites, I mean, it's got to be one of those three, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it pretty much has to be. The key to this race is probably a horse that has about as low a chance of winning as anybody in here, and that's the 5 Dry Powder, right? I
Mhm.
mean, if Dry Powder and Jose Lezcano make life hard on Lacara, then that is going to open the door for basically everybody else because everybody else wants to come from a little bit off the pace. I think the difference between last time and this time is that Manny is going to have to get Immersive off the rail, and he's going to have to get her outside to chase. She was obviously most comfortable doing so last year. He was very good about doing that. He didn't have much of an opportunity to get her away from the rail last time, and they paid the price ultimately. So if he's
Mhm.
able to get her outside, get her in a stalking spot, I think her chances will go up quite a bit.
Race 11. We got another grade stake. Grade 2, Alfred G. Vanderbilt Stakes going 6. Nick, this came up very salty. I mean, you have a ton of speed horses in this race. The return of Bookham Dano is back with Mulligan. Those two have been knocking heads recently. I think Bookham Dano, I mean, if you look, he probably shouldn't have lost a race so far this year. And I think that he gets the right setup in this race. I know it's 5-2 morning line, but some others are going to take money for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's the horse to beat. He's the one with the target on his back. He's been really good throughout his whole career. And I love the ride Paco gave him last time, putting him really into the mix a lot earlier than normal and trying to keep Mulligan within his sights. I mean, I shouldn't say a lot earlier than normal because he was involved in it pretty early on in the Churchill Downs as well. So Paco, just being a more aggressive guy, has definitely gotten this horse more into the mix. And it almost feels like when they made the jockey change, some of the way that Irad had ridden him last year a little too passively. They wanted him to be a bit more engaged. What can you say about him? He's fun, he's consistent, he's classy. He's obviously a horse that is helping Bucaro build a name as a stud, and I think he's a horse that's going to have a really really terrific future as a stallion in New York. Take nothing away from Mulligan, who has run 2 really game races in defeat, including last time in the True North when arguably he moved a little early. I thought Pratt was trying to really take the bull by the horns at the quarter pole and win the race right then. And Paco went right with him and was able to wear him down, which wasn't terribly surprising. I liked Nakatomi that day, who didn't get out of the gate well, didn't really run on. I'm going to be interested to see if there's any report on his training. I know he's been at Keeneland, but the DRF did have some clockers there for a period of time because I'd love to know how he's training coming into it. The reports on him last time weren't all that great. So I think it's going to end up being a chalky race. I wouldn't use Skelly for a nickel. Skelly needs to win a race outside of Oaklawn to me before you really start to buy what has gone on at Oaklawn because at this point it seems like what happens at Oaklawn stays at Oaklawn type of situation. But he's incredibly fast, and if he's
Mhm.
able to get out of the gate, at the very least, he's going to make his presence known on the front end, and that'll obviously make things very fun.
Yeah, and he was here last year in this race and got tracked down by Nakatomi in there, but plenty of other speed in here. You have Nash coming off a 108 buyer last time. You have Baby Yoda, who loves it up at this racetrack, comes off a 102 buyer. So this is a really difficult race. I think Bookham Dano has obviously, I mean, he looks good on paper, and Mulligan, if he gets the right trip, I think he can beat these horses. And you mentioned Nakatomi. I mean, he won this race last year. He definitely gets a setup. He can't get a I wouldn't think any worse start than he got last time. So
Yeah.
really, really wide open version of this race. The grade 2 Vanderbilt on Saturday at Saratoga. Let's go to the last, and we have 7 furlongs here. It's a 1X. Nick, how are we going to get paid?
Yeah, a horse that I've been wanting to bet back that is in here. Second off the layoff is the 3 Vekoma rides. And I encourage anybody to go watch Vekoma rides' last race. This was a horse that showed a lot of potential early in his career. He was one of the many first out winners for Vekoma in his first crop. And trainer John Kimmel threw him to the Wolves, ran him in the Champagne, had to at least find out what he had. He ended up running a good second in the Nashua, came back off a layoff last out in a pretty salty allowance race. Touchy was coming out of a second place finish in the Chick Lang at Pimlico on Preakness Day, and obviously Sand Devil is a New York bred that had shown that he had some pretty serious ability as well. And Vekoma rides ran in spots, and to me, I made a note right away in my racing form. This is a horse that needed blinkers, and here he is 3 weeks later. Blinkers are going on. I have to use him. The horse in here to beat, Mikey, is Stars and Strides. Although I ask you, does it bother you a little bit how poorly Mainstream ran the other day? right? And Stars and Strides came up the inside early on Belmont Day, despite it being a sloppy track and kind of a quagmire, was actually very good. No, the horse, of course, that comes to mind as far as Mott goes from Belmont weekend is Ragtime. Ragtime ran a really good race first out, shot herself to the moon second time out. So, my concern, and again, I wouldn't make a multi-race bet and not use Stars and Strides. To me, I'm going to use Vekoma Rides a little bit more to try and create some equity there. But I'm not positive this horse is going to really move forward off a 92 buyer. Now, you could argue he doesn't need to. He could probably run an 88 and still win, and you're probably right. But I don't want to just make this a fait accompli. I don't think he's a horse that necessarily has to win this race. The only other horse I would mention is Invictus. I'm a little annoyed with Invictus because not only did he sort of flop in the Sir Barton, but I did think he was kind of mediocre last time out. He really didn't run that great. He's going to be overbet, not for me, but there are people that are going to like this horse based on obviously the insanely strong pedigree, the Brad Cox action, so on and so forth. But I need this horse to bounce back a little bit because to me right now, that maiden win is starting to look like a fluke.
Well, I was on the same horse here, Vekoma Rides. I mean, I like Kimmel. I like this horse. I like the race that he's coming out of. I like the fact that you mentioned this horse gets blinkers, and he's 10-1 morning line, so he's going to play excellent. I do think finishing up these multis, especially given the 6 in the race and the low morning line, the Mott Barn, who has cooled off just a little bit recently, but he did have a horse yesterday that crushed there that looks sort of similar to this one. The thing about Invictus, I do think he needs Lasix, and he gets it here. I do think that Camp Hale race at Churchill was much better than this one. So, and he was too far back in there. He needs to be closer. I do think that he probably should be more engaged in this race. So if you're going to get him, I do think that this might be the time to get him. And he's going to play a little better than the 6 here in multi. So he probably would be the one I'd use. So I'd finish up with 3-9, finish this pick 6 for Saturday. When Nick, we have another fantastic Saratoga card for Saturday. Lots of great opportunities for multi-leg bets. I do think very wide open stakes races should be fun.
It should be a blast. Looking forward to it. Can't wait.
And don't miss Nick's analysis on inthemoneypodcast.com. It is free, of course, thanks to our friends for Bucaro Stud. So nice that they could sponsor that. Don't miss Nick's notebook on In the Money Plus if you want deeper dives into the Saratoga cards every day. Nick shows up and has plenty of great info there. Nick, always appreciate having you. Hopefully, I'll be talking to you soon.
Definitely, my friend. Looking forward to it.